Welcome to Vision in Motion, where we bring you powerful books that tackle real-life problems and help you find clarity, strength, and direction. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe because we're dedicated to bringing you insightful books that transform the way you think, heal, and grow. Today, we present a book that may change the way you see your relationship. The 10 Signs Your Relationship is Over. Relationships can be beautiful, fulfilling, and transformative. But sometimes they reach a breaking point, and we find ourselves stuck in cycles of pain, confusion, and frustration. This book isn't about blaming or giving up too soon. It's about recognizing when a relationship has reached its end and how to navigate that realization with wisdom, courage, and self-respect. If you've ever felt like you're fighting an uphill battle in love, this book is for you. Each chapter will explore a critical sign that your relationship may be over, backed by real-life stories and powerful insights, especially from Stoic philosophy. So let's dive in. And remember, subscribe to Vision in Motion so you don't miss future books that help you overcome life's toughest challenges. Introduction: The hardest truth to accept. No one enters a relationship thinking it will one day fall apart. We dream of love that lasts, a partner who understands us, and a future filled with happiness. But the reality is, not all relationships are meant to last. Some serve as lessons, others as stepping stones, and a few as painful reminders of who we should never become. Realizing that your relationship is ending is one of the hardest truths to accept. We cling to hope, to memories, to the what-ifs and maybes. We tell ourselves that if we just try harder, things will go back to the way they used to be. But deep down, we know something is off. That's why this book is here, to help you recognize when you're holding on to something that no longer serves you. And to do that, we'll be taking wisdom from one of the greatest philosophies in history, Stoicism. What Stoicism can teach us about relationships. Stoicism is an ancient Greek philosophy that teaches us how to find peace and resilience in the face of life's hardships. It reminds us that we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. In relationships, Stoicism helps us accept the truth rather than resist it, detach from emotional chaos and see things rationally. Understand that suffering comes from our own expectations, not reality. Let go of what we cannot control, especially other people. This book will help you use Stoic wisdom to navigate heartbreak, recognize when a relationship has run its course, and most importantly, find the strength to move forward. Let's begin with the first sign that your relationship may be over. Chapter 1: The Emotional Disconnection. The Stoic truth: love without connection is an illusion. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. B1. Marcus Aurelius. Love is not just about words. It's about connection, a deep emotional bond that makes two people feel safe, understood, and valued. When that connection fades, the relationship becomes an empty shell. Let me tell you a story. The story of Adam and Layla. Adam and Layla had been together for 6 years. At first, they were inseparable. Late-night talks, spontaneous road trips, laughter that filled the room. But something had changed. Layla started noticing that Adam was always on his phone, even during dinner. Their conversations became dry, filled with small talk rather than deep connection. The warmth in his eyes was gone. She tried to fix things. She planned date nights, asked how his day was, even started doing things he loved, just to bring them closer again. But he was already gone, emotionally. One night, as they sat in silence on the couch, Layla realized something painful. She was in a relationship, but she felt completely alone. She was fighting for something Adam had already let go of. She was holding on to memories of the past, not the reality of the present. This was the moment she understood: love without connection is an illusion. What Stoicism teaches us about emotional disconnection. In Stoicism, the worst kind of suffering is self-inflicted. We suffer not because things change, but because we refuse to accept that they have. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, taught that we should only invest in what we can control, and we can never control another person's heart. When your partner stops connecting with you emotionally, you have two choices: deny it, make excuses, and suffer. Accept it, face the truth, and move forward. Stoicism teaches us that attachment to something that no longer serves us is a source of pain. Instead of chasing a connection that is already gone, we must learn to let go with grace. Signs you're experiencing emotional disconnection. Conversations feel forced, distant, or empty. Your partner stops sharing their thoughts and feelings with you. You feel alone, even when you're together. Physical intimacy disappears, not just sex, but hugs, kisses, and touch. You make all the effort, while your partner seems indifferent. Does this sound familiar? If so, it may be time to accept reality instead of fighting it. How to move forward, a Stoic approach. 1. Face the truth without fear. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, it is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. The death of a relationship is painful, but denying it only prolongs the suffering. Accept what is happening instead of clinging to what used to be. 2. Detach from what you cannot control. You cannot force someone to stay emotionally connected. The more you try, the more they pull away. Instead, focus on your own well-being. 3. Choose strength over suffering. A Stoic does not beg for love. They recognize their worth and refuse to chase after someone who no longer values them. What comes next? The cycle of conflict. Emotional disconnection often leads to something worse, constant fighting without resolution. When love fades, people start arguing not to solve problems, but to feel something again. In Chapter 2, we'll explore how unresolved conflict erodes relationships, why fighting becomes addictive, and how Stoicism teaches us to master our emotions instead of being controlled by them. Final thought: let go or be dragged. The ancient Stoics had a powerful saying, let go or be dragged. You can hold on to an emotionally disconnected relationship, but it will only bring suffering. Or you can face the truth, embrace your strength, and walk away with dignity. The choice is yours. Chapter 2: Constant fighting without resolution. The Stoic truth: arguments without growth are chaos. How much time he saves who does not look to see what his neighbor says, or does, or thinks, but only at what he does himself, to make it just and holy. Marcus Aurelius. Conflict in relationships is natural, even necessary. It can lead to growth, deeper understanding, and stronger bonds. But what happens when the fights never end? When the arguments no longer solve problems but only create more pain? If your relationship has become a battlefield, where every discussion turns into a fight for power, not resolution, then you must ask yourself, are we growing together, or just hurting each other? In this chapter, we'll explore how endless fighting is a sign of a relationship nearing its end and how Stoicism teaches us to master our emotions instead of letting them destroy us. The story of Omar and Sarah. Omar and Sarah had been together for 5 years. At first, their arguments were rare, quickly forgotten, and often led to solutions. But over time, something changed. Now, every conversation turned into a battle. It didn't matter if it was about money, family, or even what to eat for dinner. Everything became a fight. Omar would raise his voice, and Sarah would shut down. Sarah would accuse Omar of not caring, and he would retaliate with sarcasm. Instead of fixing problems, they threw past mistakes at each other. One night, after another explosive fight, Omar sat alone and thought, if love is supposed to bring peace, why do I feel like I'm at war? He remembered something his grandfather once told him. A good partner makes life easier, not harder. At that moment, he realized something painful. The love between him and Sarah wasn't bringing them joy anymore. It was only bringing suffering. Why fighting feels addictive? Why do we stay in relationships where we fight all the time? The answer lies in attachment and fear. We mistake conflict for passion. When the love fades, we cling to intensity. Even fighting feels better than silence. We fear loneliness. We tell ourselves that being in a toxic relationship is better than being alone. We think we can fix it. We believe that one more conversation, one more argument, will suddenly make everything better. But Stoicism teaches us a painful truth. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Seneca. The truth is, we hold on because we're afraid. But holding on to a burning rope only leaves scars. What Stoicism teaches us about endless fighting. The Stoics believed that we cannot control others, only ourselves. Epictetus once said, when someone is properly grounded in life, they should not have to look outside themselves for approval. In relationships, constant fighting happens when two people stop seeing each other as partners and start seeing each other as opponents. If your arguments no longer lead to solutions and only lead to more anger, more distance, and more pain, then your relationship has become a battlefield. And in war, there are no winners, only survivors. Signs that fighting has become toxic. Arguments go in circles with no real resolution. You bring up past mistakes to hurt each other, not to heal. You fight about the same issues over and over again. After every argument, you feel exhausted rather than relieved. You start avoiding each other just to keep the peace. If these signs are familiar, then ask yourself, is this the relationship you truly want? Or are you just afraid to let go? How to break the cycle, a Stoic approach. If your relationship is stuck in an endless loop of conflict, you have two choices. Change the way you respond. Accept that the relationship is broken and walk away. 1. Control what you can, your emotions. Marcus Aurelius taught, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The biggest mistake we make in arguments is trying to control the other person. We want them to change, to listen, to see our side. But we cannot control others. We can only control ourselves. Instead of reacting with anger, respond with calmness. Instead of proving a point, ask yourself if the argument is worth it. Instead of holding on to resentment, practice letting go. When one person in a relationship becomes calm and centered, the fights lose their power. 2. Accept reality. Not every relationship can be saved. The hardest Stoic lesson is acceptance. Epictetus reminds us, make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens. If your relationship is filled with endless conflict, and no amount of patience, communication, or effort changes that, then maybe it's time to accept that this love is no longer serving you. Letting go isn't weakness. It's wisdom. The transition to the next chapter, emotional exhaustion. Constant fighting doesn't just create distance, it drains you mentally, emotionally, and even physically. When a relationship becomes a source of pain rather than peace, you begin to feel emotionally exhausted. In Chapter 3, we'll explore how emotional exhaustion affects your health and well-being. Why staying in a toxic relationship weakens your self-worth. The Stoic way to regain your inner peace. If you've ever felt drained, numb, or completely empty from love, then Chapter 3 will reveal why, and what to do about it. Final thought. Choose peace over chaos. At the end of the day, a relationship should bring more joy than pain, more peace than war, more love than fear. If every conversation turns into a battle, maybe the relationship has already lost the war. A Stoic does not hold on to something that destroys their peace. A Stoic lets go when holding on only brings suffering. The question is, are you ready to choose peace? Subscribe to Vision in Motion for more books that help you overcome life's toughest challenges. Chapter 3, Emotional Exhaustion, when you feel drained and numb. The Stoic truth, detachment brings freedom. No man is free who is not master of himself. Epictetus. Emotional exhaustion is one of the most subtle but dangerous signs that a relationship might be over. When you feel emotionally drained, it's like you're carrying an invisible weight around with you, weight that doesn't just affect your relationship but impacts every part of your life. If you've reached the point where you feel numb, where you can't remember the last time you felt genuinely happy or excited about your relationship, then you're not just tired, you're emotionally exhausted. This exhaustion happens when you've given so much of yourself and received so little in return. It's like trying to fill a well that has no bottom. No matter how much effort you put in, there's nothing left to draw from. The story of Ava and Daniel. Ava and Daniel had been together for 7 years. They once had a deep connection, built on shared dreams and a mutual respect for each other's individuality. But over time, their relationship became draining. Ava would give everything she had, emotionally, physically, and mentally. Daniel would take, but he never seemed to give anything back. Ava didn't realize it at first, but slowly, the love she once had for Daniel began to feel more like an obligation than a joy. She would lie awake at night, replaying arguments in her mind, thinking about all the things she had done for him, and yet, she still felt empty. One night, as Ava stared at the ceiling in the dark, she felt as if all her energy had been drained. Every moment with Daniel felt like it required more of her than she could give. She wasn't even sure who she was anymore. She had given everything to a relationship that wasn't giving anything back. She remembered the words of her grandmother. A person who is emotionally drained can't give love, because they no longer have any left to give. Ava realized the painful truth. The relationship wasn't just unfulfilling, it was slowly sucking the life out of her. Why emotional exhaustion happens in relationships. Emotional exhaustion in relationships happens when we invest too much of ourselves into something or someone that isn't reciprocal. It may be that we're trying to fix things that are broken or constantly giving more than we can handle because we hope things will change. But the Stoics understood the importance of detachment, the idea that we cannot derive our happiness or peace from things or people outside of ourselves. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." The truth is, we often burn ourselves out trying to control situations or people who will never change. The more we try to fix something that's beyond repair, the more we exhaust ourselves emotionally, mentally, and physically. Signs of emotional exhaustion in relationships. Here are the clear signs that emotional exhaustion has taken over in your relationship. You feel overwhelmed by even the simplest tasks. You don't feel heard, seen, or appreciated. You feel constantly drained and have no energy left for yourself. You find yourself faking happiness or pretending everything is okay. You feel like your partner doesn't care about your emotional needs. You no longer feel connected or in love with your partner. If any of these signs resonate with you, then you might be emotionally exhausted, and it's affecting your ability to feel joy or peace in the relationship. How Stoicism can help you reclaim your energy. Emotional exhaustion can feel like a slow death. It's not like a sudden shock to the system, but more of a gradual erosion of your emotional and mental health. However, Stoicism teaches us that detachment and control of our emotions are the path to freedom. Here's how you can use Stoic principles to regain your inner peace. 1. Control what you can, your reaction. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, reminds us, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." When we're emotionally exhausted, it's easy to lose sight of the things we can control. We think we need to fix everything and everyone around us, but what we really need to do is focus on ourselves. Stop trying to control your partner's actions. You cannot control how your partner behaves, how they communicate, or how they love. But you can control how you respond. Stop taking things personally. Not every action from your partner is a reflection of you. If your partner is distant or unkind, it's often more about them than about you. Reframe your perspective. Instead of focusing on what's draining you, try to focus on what you can learn from the situation. What lessons can you take from this? How can you grow stronger? 2. Practice self-care and detachment. The Stoics believed in the importance of self-care, though not in the way we think of it today. For them, self-care was about protecting your emotional and mental health from external forces. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Seneca. To regain your energy, you must detach yourself from the negative emotions that come from your relationship. This doesn't mean shutting down emotionally, rather it means prioritize yourself. Take time to do things that bring you joy and fulfillment. Whether it's reading, exercising, or simply spending time alone, these moments are essential for recharging your emotional batteries. Create healthy boundaries. If your partner's behavior is draining you, it's important to set clear boundaries. Be honest about your needs and make it clear that you need emotional support in return. Forgive yourself for not being perfect. Let go of the pressure to be everything for your partner. Understand that you are allowed to have needs and desires that are separate from your relationship. 3. Accept what you cannot change. Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Sometimes, emotional exhaustion stems from trying to fix something that is beyond your control. If you've been in a relationship that has drained you for a long time, accept that you cannot change your partner or the dynamics of the relationship. Letting go is one of the hardest things to do, but sometimes it's the only way to preserve your emotional well-being. The transition to the next chapter, the fear of letting go. Emotional exhaustion is not just about feeling drained, it's about losing yourself in the process. And the hardest part? Letting go. In Chapter 4, we will explore the fear of losing the person you love. How fear keeps us in toxic relationships. The Stoic way to conquer fear and make peace with loss. If you're feeling like you're emotionally exhausted but can't let go, Chapter 4 will guide you through the process of freeing yourself from fear and reclaiming your life. Final thought: reclaim your energy. Emotional exhaustion is one of the most painful signs that a relationship is no longer serving you. But remember, you have the power to regain control over your emotions and your life. A Stoic doesn't let external circumstances define their peace. They choose to protect their energy and focus on what they can control. If your relationship has drained you, it's okay to step back, reassess, and prioritize your own well-being. Your peace is worth more than the chaos of a draining relationship. Chapter 4: The Fear of Letting Go, the Stoic Path to Freedom. The Stoic truth: freedom comes from letting go. He who is brave is free. Seneca. One of the hardest emotional hurdles in any relationship is the fear of letting go. Letting go doesn't simply mean ending a relationship. It involves confronting the raw truth that we've spent so much time, energy, and emotions into something that may no longer be healthy for us. And in many cases, the fear of this loss can paralyze us. The fear of loss is one of the most deeply ingrained fears we face as human beings. The fear of losing someone we love, the fear of ending something that was once meaningful, the fear of being alone, and even the fear of admitting to ourselves that this relationship may not work. These fears can easily outweigh our rational thoughts. The Stoics, however, understood that the key to freedom is not in clinging to things, but in learning to detach and accept life as it comes. The story of John and Rachel. John had been with Rachel for over 4 years. Their relationship started off like a beautiful romance, passionate, spontaneous, and full of promise. But as time went on, cracks began to show. Arguments became more frequent, misunderstandings grew, and their emotional connection slowly withered away. Yet, John couldn't bring himself to leave. He was afraid. Afraid of being alone. Afraid of the judgment from friends and family. Most of all, he feared the finality of it all. Letting go meant that everything they once shared would be gone forever. Even though Rachel was no longer the person he once loved, John held on because he couldn't accept the idea of letting go. His fear paralyzed him. In late autumn, after a particularly heated argument, Rachel asked for some space. For the first time, John realized that he was constantly living in fear, not of what was happening right now, but of what could happen in the future. Would he survive without her? Would he be okay? John found solace in the writings of Marcus Aurelius, particularly in the Stoic practice of focusing on what you can control. Marcus wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." Slowly, John began to realize that letting go wasn't the end, it was a necessary part of his growth. Letting go didn't mean that their time together was wasted. It meant that he was making space for something better: peace, self-love, and freedom. It took time for John to come to this realization, but he eventually found the strength to move on, realizing that freedom comes from detachment, not clinging. The roots of the fear: why we cling to toxic relationships. The fear of letting go is natural, but it often has deeper roots. As humans, we tend to cling to what is familiar, even if it isn't healthy. The fear of uncertainty can feel scarier than staying in a relationship that no longer serves us. We become emotionally attached to the idea of what the relationship could be rather than accepting what it actually is. This is where attachment theory plays a role. Psychologically, we become emotionally attached to someone, and over time, this attachment becomes entwined with our identity. We start thinking, "I need them to be happy. I can't imagine my life without them. What will people think if I end this?" The Stoics understood this attachment and taught us that true freedom comes from acknowledging that nothing is permanent. In fact, life is in a constant state of flux. Nothing stays the same forever, and everything we love, including our relationships, can change or fade away. To truly live, we must accept this truth. Stoicism and the practice of letting go. The Stoic approach to letting go is not about denying emotions or suppressing feelings. Rather, it's about acknowledging the truth and coming to terms with the impermanence of life. The Stoics believed that true peace comes when we stop fighting against change. Here are 3 powerful Stoic strategies to help you let go of the fear. 1. Accept what is, not what you wish it was. Epictetus taught that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When you face the fear of letting go, you may wish things were different. You may wish that your relationship didn't end, or that your partner had changed. But wishing for things to be different from reality is a form of suffering. The Stoics teach us that suffering comes from resisting what we cannot change. The sooner you accept that things are the way they are, the sooner you can free yourself from emotional turmoil. Ask yourself, what is true about this relationship right now? What can I control in this situation? This clarity allows you to move forward with less emotional weight and guilt. It's about accepting that you cannot change the past and that the present is all you have. 2. Focus on what you can control. When we're afraid to let go of a relationship, we focus on everything we can't control: how our partner feels, what the future holds, how others will perceive us. But Stoic philosophy teaches us to shift our focus to what we can control: our thoughts, reactions, and decisions. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Epictetus. If you're afraid of letting go, it's important to ask yourself, what is my role in this? What can I do to take care of myself? What steps can I take to heal and grow? These questions empower you to act within the realm of what you can influence, rather than being paralyzed by fear and uncertainty. 3. Practice detachment with love and wisdom. Detachment doesn't mean coldness or indifference. It means loving without being consumed by the need for the other person. The Stoics taught that true love is not based on possession, but on appreciation and respect. Detachment is the ability to love without clinging, to care without expectation. It's about recognizing that people come into our lives for a reason, and their purpose may have been fulfilled. In practicing detachment, you don't cut off your emotions, but you free yourself from the need to control or hold on. You can still wish the best for your partner, but you release the fear of losing them. The transition to the next chapter: the power of self-love. Letting go of fear is incredibly liberating. Once we accept the reality of a situation, we create space for something more meaningful. In Chapter 5, we will explore how self-love is the foundation for healing and moving on. How self-love helps you rebuild after loss. The Stoic practice of inner peace and self-empowerment. Steps to nurture your emotional well-being after letting go. If you've struggled with letting go, Chapter 5 will show you the power of self-love in reclaiming your life. Final thought: fear should not control you. Fear can keep you stuck in unhealthy relationships, but it doesn't have to. By practicing Stoicism, you learn to accept that change is inevitable and that true freedom comes from detaching from the fear of loss. Letting go isn't about giving up, it's about reclaiming your power and embracing the unknown with courage. When you stop fearing loss, you start living. Your path to freedom begins with the courage to let go. Chapter 5: Rediscovering Yourself. The Stoic Art of Self-Love. The foundation of self-love. You are your first priority. To love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance. Oscar Wilde. After the difficult and painful journey of letting go, it's time to rediscover yourself, to heal, reclaim your inner peace, and cultivate a love that is rooted in self-acceptance. The Stoic philosophy teaches us that we must first love ourselves before we can love others. This may sound like an oversimplified statement, but in reality, it is the foundation of emotional healing. The Stoics, particularly figures like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, deeply believed that the key to a fulfilling life and meaningful relationships starts with the individual. They stressed that we cannot control the behavior of others, but we can control how we treat ourselves. Self-love is not about selfishness or arrogance. It is the practice of nurturing your well-being and recognizing your own worth. The story of Sarah, from heartbreak to self-discovery. Sarah had been in a long-term relationship with a man she deeply loved, but after years of emotional roller coasters, she found herself in a constant state of uncertainty. Their relationship was full of highs and lows, intense passion mixed with painful arguments and emotional neglect. At the end of the relationship, Sarah felt broken. She thought she had invested so much of herself into the partnership that her identity was now tangled up with him. She felt lost, unsure of who she was without him, and her self-esteem took a huge hit. But Sarah was introduced to the world of Stoic philosophy by a close friend who recommended the teachings of Epictetus. His famous words, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters," resonated with her deeply. She realized that she had allowed her worth to be tied to someone else's actions and perceptions. Sarah began practicing self-reflection, journaling, and focusing on what she could control: her thoughts, emotions, and reactions. She gradually accepted that she was not defined by her relationship and started to pour love back into herself. She made time to nurture her physical health, rekindle hobbies that had been forgotten, and spend quality time with friends who lifted her spirits. Slowly but surely, Sarah found herself again. She stopped waiting for someone else to define her worth. Instead, she embraced her own strength and began to see herself through a lens of love, respect, and gratitude. The Stoic philosophy: self-love is empowerment. At its core, Stoicism teaches us that self-love is empowerment. This is not a selfish form of love, but rather one that arises from self-respect and self-awareness. Stoics believed that you must first be your own best friend before you can form healthy, loving relationships with others. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." In the context of relationships, this statement means that you can control how you respond to the events around you, including the end of a relationship. You have the power to choose how you view yourself, regardless of the treatment or actions of others. This is where self-love becomes an essential practice in healing. By acknowledging your worth, nurturing your emotional and mental health, and practicing self-compassion, you create the space for recovery and transformation. Breaking down the Stoic approach to self-love. The Stoic approach to self-love is deeply rooted in wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, the four cardinal virtues that guide Stoic philosophy. Here's how these virtues can guide you in building a healthy relationship with yourself. 1. Wisdom. Understand your true worth. Wisdom is not just about knowledge, it's about seeing things clearly and truthfully. When it comes to self-love, wisdom is about understanding that your worth is intrinsic and not based on external validation. Epictetus taught that our happiness is determined by how we respond to the world around us. If we allow our value to be defined by others, we relinquish control over our self-worth. True wisdom comes when we realize that our value doesn't come from anyone else's approval, it is inherent in us as individuals. 2. Courage. Embrace vulnerability and growth. Courage in Stoicism is the ability to face challenges head-on, even when the path is difficult. When it comes to self-love, courage means embracing your vulnerabilities, the parts of yourself that need healing and nurturing. Many people struggle with self-love because they are afraid to confront their weaknesses or imperfections. They fear rejection or not measuring up to some ideal standard. But Stoicism teaches us to have the courage to face our flaws with honesty and compassion. When you can accept yourself, flaws and all, you create the space for growth and healing. 3. Justice. Be fair to yourself. Justice is about treating others with fairness, but it also means treating yourself with fairness. This is where self-compassion plays a key role. You may have made mistakes in the past or felt that you didn't live up to certain expectations. But Stoic justice teaches us to be fair with ourselves, to recognize that we are human, and to give ourselves the grace to heal and move forward. You deserve the same kindness, understanding, and forgiveness that you extend to others. You are worthy of love simply because you exist, not because of any conditions or achievements. 4. Temperance. Maintain balance in your self-care. Temperance is the practice of moderation and balance. In the context of self-love, this means nurturing yourself without overindulgence. It's easy to get caught up in self-destructive habits, be it overworking, isolation, or self-criticism. Stoic temperance teaches us to maintain a healthy balance, prioritizing self-care, but also knowing when to challenge ourselves and push beyond comfort zones. True self-love involves giving yourself the time and space to heal, but also the wisdom to challenge negative self-beliefs and take intentional action toward growth. The power of self-love in moving on. Self-love is not a one-time act, it is an ongoing practice that evolves over time. The key to moving on from a painful relationship lies in the depth of your self-love. It's the foundation from which all healing starts. Without it, it is impossible to truly move forward or create healthy future relationships. When you love yourself, you stop waiting for external validation and start seeking fulfillment within. Your happiness no longer relies on someone else's presence or approval. Instead, it becomes something you can generate from within, leading to a more empowered and peaceful life. Transition to Chapter 6, Setting Boundaries with Love and Strength. In Chapter 6, we will dive deeper into the concept of setting healthy boundaries. Boundaries are a critical part of self-love. They ensure that you maintain respect for yourself while nurturing relationships with others. By the end of Chapter 6, you will understand how to establish emotional boundaries that protect your well-being and foster healthy, balanced connections. Final thought: you are enough. Self-love is not an indulgence, it is a necessity. It's the foundation of all healthy relationships and the key to emotional freedom. As you move forward on your journey of healing, remember that you are enough, just as you are. Through wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, you can rebuild your life and move forward with confidence, knowing that true love starts with you. Chapter 6, Setting Boundaries with Love and Strength. The vital role of boundaries in self-love. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, what you stop, and what you reinforce. Tony Gaskins. In the aftermath of a relationship's end, one of the most empowering steps you can take is setting boundaries. Boundaries are not walls that isolate you from others. Rather, they are the invisible lines that define your emotional space and protect your well-being. The Stoics understood the necessity of boundaries, and they approached them with calm wisdom and strength. Boundaries are an act of self-respect and self-preservation. They allow you to be clear on what is acceptable in your life and what isn't, ensuring that you never lose sight of your value. Setting boundaries is about acknowledging your worth and teaching others to respect that. Whether it's your family, friends, or future partners, boundaries communicate that you are worthy of respect, kindness, and understanding. Just as Stoic philosophers believed in the importance of maintaining their inner peace amidst external chaos, boundaries allow you to guard your peace and cultivate an environment where you can thrive emotionally and mentally. Sarah's story, learning to set boundaries. After months of emotional healing, Sarah found herself at a crossroads. Although she had worked hard to rediscover her inner strength, she was still struggling with one significant challenge: her ex-partner's attempts to re-enter her life. He would send her messages, show up unannounced at her workplace, and even try to rekindle their relationship, despite the fact that they had both agreed it was over. Sarah felt torn. On the one hand, she still had feelings for him, but on the other hand, she knew that this relationship had been toxic. She realized that without clear boundaries, she would never be able to move on. Inspired by the Stoic philosophy of controlling what is in your power, Sarah decided to take control of the situation. She knew that she could not control his actions, but she could control how she responded. One day, Sarah had a conversation with her ex and firmly told him that she needed space to heal. She expressed that, while she valued their past, it was essential for both of them to move on. She told him that any further communication should be limited to matters that were necessary, and she politely but firmly asked for no more personal contact. For the first time in months, Sarah felt empowered. She realized that setting boundaries didn't mean she was cold or unkind. It meant that she was finally respecting herself and her emotional needs. The Stoic approach to boundaries. In Stoicism, the concept of control plays a pivotal role in maintaining peace. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." This philosophy suggests that while we cannot always control the actions of others, we can control how we respond to them. This control is where boundaries come into play. The Stoics were not passive people. They were active participants in life and believed in taking control of the things within their power, their actions, thoughts, and emotions. They taught that, just as one has a duty to cultivate their inner virtues, they also have a responsibility to protect their inner peace by setting appropriate boundaries. When it comes to relationships, boundaries are vital for preserving your emotional well-being. Without them, you risk becoming overwhelmed by the needs, demands, and emotional turbulence of others. Boundaries are not just about keeping toxic people away, they are also about ensuring that the relationships you do have are based on mutual respect, understanding, and healthy interaction. Setting healthy boundaries, a step-by-step guide. Identify your emotional needs. The first step in setting boundaries is to understand your emotional needs. What makes you feel safe, comfortable, and respected? Reflect on your past relationship and ask yourself what you tolerated that you shouldn't have. By identifying these emotional triggers, you can become more conscious of when your boundaries are being crossed. Be clear and direct. Stoicism teaches us to speak with clarity and directness. If you need to set a boundary, do so with confidence and clarity. There is no need to be harsh, but it is important to be clear about what you are and aren't willing to accept. "I need space to heal and will not be able to engage in personal conversations at this time," is a simple yet direct way to communicate your needs. Understand that it's okay to say no. One of the greatest challenges in setting boundaries is learning to say no. Often, we feel guilty or selfish when we assert our needs. However, Stoicism teaches us that saying no is an act of self-respect. It is a way of protecting your peace and ensuring that your emotional energy is not drained by unhealthy relationships or situations. Be consistent. Once you have set a boundary, it's important to be consistent. People may test your boundaries, either consciously or unconsciously, but it's crucial to remain firm. The Stoics believed in practicing virtues consistently. Just as you would train yourself to be courageous or wise, you must train yourself to maintain your boundaries. Be prepared for pushback. Not everyone will understand or accept your boundaries immediately. People who have been used to crossing those lines may resist your efforts to assert yourself. But the Stoics knew that others' reactions are outside of your control. Stay calm and composed, and remember that the most important thing is that you are acting in alignment with your values and your needs. The Stoic reflection: why boundaries are essential. In relationships, boundaries are essential for preserving your emotional integrity. Seneca, the Roman Stoic philosopher, believed that it is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. This sentiment applies to relationships. If you are constantly giving of yourself to others without protecting your own well-being, you will inevitably find yourself emotionally drained and unfulfilled. Boundaries prevent this imbalance. They allow you to engage with others in a way that is healthy and sustainable, ensuring that both parties respect one another's needs and values. Through boundaries, you teach others how to treat you, and by doing so, you protect the most precious part of yourself, your inner peace. The next chapter: the healing power of forgiveness. In Chapter 7, we will explore the Stoic practice of forgiveness, not as an act of weakness, but as a powerful tool for emotional freedom. By forgiving, we release the emotional burdens that hold us back, allowing us to move forward with a heart that is lighter and more at peace. Final thought: boundaries as an act of self-respect. As you continue your journey of emotional healing, remember that setting boundaries is one of the most loving things you can do for yourself. It is not about shutting others out, but rather about creating a space in which you can protect your emotional energy and nurture your growth. By honoring your boundaries, you honor yourself and your journey toward becoming the person you are meant to be. Chapter 7: the healing power of forgiveness. The Stoic perspective on forgiveness. Forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it. Mark Twain. In the journey of healing, few acts are as powerful as forgiveness. Not only is it a path toward emotional freedom, but it is also a transformative practice rooted deeply in Stoic philosophy. For the Stoics, forgiveness was not a gesture toward the person who wronged you, it was an act of self-liberation, an acknowledgement that holding onto resentment only weakens the spirit. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." Forgiveness, in this sense, is about taking back control of your emotions, your energy, and your mental peace. When relationships end, particularly those that have caused pain, the temptation to hold grudges or harbor resentment can be overwhelming. But the Stoics teach us that resentment is not an act of strength, it is an act of weakness. Holding on to anger and frustration only serves to bind you to the past and to the person who hurt you. Forgiveness, then, becomes a means of cutting those invisible ties, allowing you to move forward unburdened and stronger. John's story: the power of letting go. John had been through the pain of a toxic breakup. His ex-partner Lisa had betrayed his trust in ways that left deep emotional scars. 4 months after the breakup, John found himself consumed by anger. He replayed their arguments, the lies, and the painful moments of betrayal over and over in his mind. He imagined all the things he wished he could have said to her, all the ways he wished he could make her feel the pain she had caused him. Despite his deep love for her once, John knew that he couldn't heal as long as he was holding on to this anger. It was consuming him, his thoughts, his emotions, and even his physical health. One day, after reading some Stoic philosophy on forgiving others to find peace within oneself, he realized that he was allowing her actions to control his life. John decided to take a bold step forward. He wrote a letter to Lisa, not to send to her, but as a therapeutic exercise. In the letter, he acknowledged the pain she had caused him but also acknowledged that he had the power to release that pain. He ended the letter with words of forgiveness: "I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace." In that moment, John felt a weight lift off his chest. He understood that forgiving her didn't mean excusing her behavior or accepting what happened. It simply meant he was no longer going to carry the emotional burden. Forgiveness was his gift to himself. Forgiveness as an act of self-liberation. The Stoics recognized that our emotions are a reflection of our own minds, not the people who provoke them. By holding on to anger, we continue to allow others to have power over us. But when we choose to forgive, we take back that power. Forgiveness is not about forgetting what happened or condoning harmful actions. It is about releasing the hold that past pain has on our hearts. When we forgive, we free ourselves from the shackles of resentment, bitterness, and grief. This is the essence of Stoic thinking. We control our inner world. The external events may be out of our hands, but how we respond to them is up to us. As Epictetus wisely stated, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This reaction is where forgiveness comes in. By forgiving, you are choosing to react with grace, peace, and strength rather than bitterness. The Stoic practice of radical acceptance. A critical aspect of forgiveness in Stoicism is the concept of radical acceptance, accepting what has happened without judgment. In the Stoic worldview, everything that happens is a part of nature's unfolding, even if it causes us pain. The idea of radical acceptance doesn't mean we passively accept harm, but rather we recognize that certain events are beyond our control. For example, when a partner cheats or betrays us, we cannot change their actions. However, we can accept the reality of the situation. The relationship ended, the trust was broken, and we must move forward. To accept this reality with grace allows us to stop fighting with the past and instead, focus on the future. Radical acceptance is not resignation. It's a conscious decision to stop allowing the past to define us and to choose healing over suffering. Steps toward forgiveness. A practical guide. Acknowledge your pain. Before you can forgive, it's essential to acknowledge your pain. Stoicism teaches us that we must first be honest with ourselves. Denying or suppressing pain will only prolong the suffering. Understand the hurt and recognize it as a part of your healing process. Understand the impermanence of everything. Everything, including pain, is transient. The Stoics believed that nothing lasts forever, including the difficulties we face. By reminding yourself that pain is a passing moment, you can start to reframe the way you see your suffering. Shift your focus to the present moment. Forgiveness requires shifting your focus from the past to the present. The Stoics believed that the present moment is all we truly have. By focusing on the present, you free yourself from the chains of past pain and open the door to new possibilities. Recognize that forgiveness is for your healing. Understand that forgiveness is not for the person who wronged you, it's for your own peace of mind. When you forgive, you release the emotional grip that resentment has on your heart, which allows you to heal and move forward. Choose to let go. Finally, forgiveness is a conscious decision. It may not happen overnight, and it may take time, but when you choose to let go of the hurt, you are actively reclaiming your emotional freedom. The Stoic reflection. Finding strength in forgiveness. The Stoic philosophy teaches us that virtue is the only true good. This means that by forgiving, we are embodying one of the highest virtues, inner peace. Seneca said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." When you forgive, you master your emotions and stop letting the actions of others dictate your internal world. You take back your freedom, and you do so with dignity, grace, and strength. By forgiving, you are not weak. You are strong in a way that transcends the usual notions of power. You are strong because you have chosen peace over revenge, healing over bitterness, and love over hate. This is the ultimate form of emotional freedom. The next chapter, moving forward with confidence. In Chapter 8, we will explore the practice of rediscovering your passions after a painful breakup. By reconnecting with the things that once brought you joy, you can begin to heal and rebuild your life with a renewed sense of purpose and confidence. Final thought, forgiveness as your path to freedom. As you continue your journey of healing, remember that forgiveness is not an act of weakness, it is an act of incredible strength. It is a path that allows you to release the weight of resentment and step into the future with an open heart. In the words of Marcus Aurelius, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. By forgiving, you embody the goodness that you wish to see in the world. Chapter 8, Rediscovering Your Passions. The Stoic perspective on passion and purpose. A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions. Marcus Aurelius. After a relationship ends, it's easy to feel lost, as if the core of your identity has been shaken. The person you were with may have become intertwined with your passions, dreams, and the vision for your future. But the Stoics teach us that we are not defined by external things. We are defined by our internal purpose and the way we choose to respond to life's challenges. In Stoic thought, purpose and passion are deeply connected to virtue. Seneca encouraged us to live in accordance with our nature and our highest values. When we focus on developing our inner virtues, such as wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, we align with a greater purpose that is not dependent on external circumstances or people. True passion, according to Stoicism, is found when we engage in pursuits that are meaningful, fulfilling, and aligned with our deeper values. When a relationship ends, it's an opportunity to rediscover your passions, to shift your focus from external attachment to internal growth. By reconnecting with the things that once brought you joy, or by discovering new activities that ignite your soul, you can reclaim your purpose and live more fully. Sarah's story, a journey of reconnection. Sarah, a once vibrant and passionate woman, found herself in a dark place after her breakup with Matt. Their relationship had taken up so much of her time and energy that she had forgotten what it felt like to truly do things for herself. She had put her passions on hold, writing, painting, and traveling, because she felt it was more important to nurture her relationship. But after the breakup, Sarah was forced to confront the void left behind. She felt empty, as if the foundation of her identity had crumbled. One day, while cleaning her apartment, she came across a sketchbook that she hadn't touched in years. As she flipped through the pages, filled with unfinished drawings and forgotten dreams, she felt a spark of recognition, a reminder of who she was before the relationship. The next day, Sarah picked up a paintbrush for the first time in months. It felt like coming home. As she worked on a new canvas, her mind began to clear. With every stroke, she felt more connected to her true self. Her passions were not gone, they were waiting for her to return. As she continued to reconnect with her creativity, Sarah discovered new passions as well. She took up hiking, something she had always wanted to try but had neglected in favor of spending time with Matt. Through these activities, Sarah found a sense of purpose and renewal that she had never thought possible. She learned that passion is not something that can be taken away by someone else, it's something that comes from within. The Stoic practice of self-renewal. In Stoic philosophy, self-renewal is a continual process. Each day presents an opportunity to align more closely with our purpose, to become better versions of ourselves. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." So when a relationship ends, instead of focusing on the pain and loss, you can choose to shift your focus to growth and self-improvement. One of the most powerful Stoic practices is self-reflection. Reflecting on your values, strengths, and what brings you joy is an essential part of rediscovering your passions. The more you understand yourself, the more you can direct your energy toward meaningful pursuits. Steps to rediscover your passions, a practical guide. Reflect on your core values. The first step in rediscovering your passions is understanding what truly matters to you. Self-reflection is key. What are the values that have always driven you? What activities have brought you the most joy and fulfillment in the past? Write them down and remind yourself of these core values as you move forward. Set new intentions. After a breakup, it's easy to feel adrift, but this is also an opportunity to set new intentions. Whether it's reigniting old passions or exploring new interests, take action. Set small, manageable goals that align with your core values and create a sense of purpose. Engage in activities that bring joy. Think about the activities that once brought you joy, before the relationship. Whether it's painting, writing, traveling, or playing music, reconnect with these pursuits. The Stoics believed that engaging in activities that align with your virtues and values helps you maintain inner harmony. Explore new interests. Sometimes, it takes a break from the past to uncover new passions. Don't be afraid to try something new, whether it's a hobby you've always wanted to try or a completely new adventure. New experiences can open up doors to passions you never knew existed. Embrace the process. Rediscovering your passions is not something that happens overnight. Be patient with yourself. The Stoics believed in embracing the journey, not rushing toward an outcome. It's not about having it all figured out, it's about engaging in the process and being open to change. The Stoic virtue of resilience. One of the most powerful aspects of Stoic philosophy is its emphasis on resilience. Life will throw obstacles in our way, but it is how we respond to them that matters. After a breakup, you might face moments of doubt or frustration. However, by practicing Stoic virtues like fortitude and resilience, you can bounce back stronger. The Stoics understood that difficulty is a natural part of life, and it is in the face of adversity that we can truly grow. Seneca once said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." This is a crucial lesson when rediscovering your passions. The road may not always be smooth, but each challenge you face can help you grow stronger and more aligned with your purpose. The next chapter, forging new connections. As you move forward, rediscovering your passions and strengthening your sense of self, the next step in the healing process is to forge new connections. In Chapter 9, we will explore how to build meaningful relationships after a painful breakup and how to open your heart to new experiences while keeping the lessons learned in mind. Final thought, passion as your North Star. In the journey of healing, Rediscovering your passions is like finding your North Star. It gives you direction, meaning, and a sense of purpose. As you reconnect with the things that bring you joy, remember that you are creating a future that is rooted in your authentic self. You are not defined by the relationships you've lost. You are defined by your ability to rebuild, to grow, and to live according to your own values. By embracing your passions, you are embarking on a path of self-renewal and inner strength. And as the Stoics taught, true freedom lies in mastering yourself and living a life aligned with your virtues. Chapter 9: Forging New Connections. The Stoic Perspective on Connection and Community. We are not meant to live alone, nor to live in isolation. We are meant to live as a part of something greater, and to form bonds with others. Marcus Aurelius. After a breakup, the sense of loneliness can feel overwhelming. The void left by your partner may create a deep feeling of emptiness, and it's easy to retreat into isolation. However, the Stoic philosophy teaches us that human beings are social creatures, and it is through forming meaningful connections with others that we truly thrive. While it's important to heal and reconnect with yourself first, it's equally important to open your heart to others. In Stoic terms, our ability to form virtuous relationships is key to a fulfilling life. According to Epictetus, we are social animals. We are meant to help and be helped by others. The Stoics believed that true friendships and meaningful relationships are built upon virtue, not external benefits. The quality of our relationships depends not on what we can gain, but on what we can give to others. The end of a romantic relationship is an opportunity to reevaluate how we connect with the people around us. It's a chance to forge new connections, not just with romantic partners but also with friends, family, and even people who can help us grow in unexpected ways. John's journey: rebuilding friendships and community. John's world was turned upside down when his 6-year-long relationship with his partner Kate ended. He had been so invested in the relationship that he had neglected his friendships, distancing himself from family, and withdrawing from his community. When the breakup occurred, John found himself isolated and unsure of where to turn. For months, he buried himself in work and tried to stay busy, but the loneliness never left. One day, after a particularly hard week, he remembered an old friend, Tom, whom he had lost touch with during the course of his relationship. The two had shared deep conversations, laughed together, and had even traveled abroad together before John became consumed by his romantic relationship. With some hesitation, John decided to reach out to Tom, apologizing for the distance he had put between them. To his surprise, Tom was excited to reconnect and invited him out for coffee. During their conversation, John was reminded of what it felt like to have someone who truly understood him. Tom listened to John's struggles with empathy, offering both advice and comfort, but more importantly, he reaffirmed the importance of having genuine connections. This conversation became a turning point for John. He realized that although the romantic relationship was over, the bonds with those who truly cared for him could help him heal. He also reached out to his family and reconnected with old friends, forming a new support system. John learned that forging new connections didn't mean rushing into another romantic relationship. It meant building a community of people who added value to his life, people who could offer wisdom, encouragement, and love without judgment. The Stoic virtue of justice in relationships. Stoicism teaches that justice is not just about fairness in the legal sense, but about creating relationships built on mutual respect and kindness. In the context of forging new connections after a breakup, this means approaching others with a spirit of fairness, not expecting to get something in return, but rather giving to others in meaningful ways. As Seneca wrote, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for a kindness." This applies to friendships, family relationships, and even new romantic relationships. In Stoic thought, the quality of our relationships is rooted in how much we are willing to contribute to the well-being of others. After the end of a relationship, many people might seek companionship or affection to fill the emotional gap. While this is understandable, Stoicism teaches that true connection comes from offering something meaningful to others, not just seeking personal gain. This creates virtuous relationships that are not based on attachment or dependence, but on mutual respect, trust, and shared values. Steps to forge new connections. A practical guide. Re-evaluate your relationships. The first step is to assess your current relationships and identify those that align with your values. After a breakup, it's common to feel the need to let go of toxic or unfulfilling relationships. Take stock of the people in your life, and consider who truly brings positivity, support, and growth into your world. Reach out to old friends and family. In many cases, the people who are closest to you are those who have been there before the relationship began. Reach out to family members and friends who might have been neglected during your time in the relationship. Reconnecting with them can provide a sense of belonging and perspective. Join communities aligned with your values. Seeking out new connections through shared values or interests is a powerful way to form meaningful relationships. Whether through hobby groups, volunteering, or professional networks, getting involved in communities that reflect your virtues allows you to meet people who share your passions and goals. Be vulnerable and authentic. Stoicism encourages us to embrace vulnerability, understanding that true strength lies in honesty and authenticity. When forging new connections, allow yourself to be open and honest about your experiences. Sharing your story, even the painful parts, can help others relate to you on a deeper level. Practice patience. Rebuilding a social circle or forging new connections takes time. The Stoics believed in patience with the process. Like cultivating a garden, the relationships you form after a breakup will require attention and care, but with time, they will grow into something meaningful and fulfilling. The Stoic virtue of friendship. Friendship, according to the Stoics, is not about seeking comfort or companionship, but about mutual support in the pursuit of virtue. In their eyes, true friends are those who encourage you to become your best self. The Stoic ideal of friendship is not based on neediness or convenience, but on genuine mutual respect and shared wisdom. As Cicero put it, friendship is a single soul dwelling in two bodies. When forging new connections, strive to cultivate friendships that help you grow, support you in your journey, and challenge you to live according to your highest values. These friendships are rooted in virtue, not in superficial factors like status or appearance. The next chapter, self-compassion and acceptance. As you work to rebuild your life and form new connections, you may find that you are still holding onto old emotions or thoughts that hold you back. In Chapter 10, we will delve into the Stoic practice of self-compassion and acceptance, learning to forgive yourself for the past, embrace your imperfections, and move forward with grace. Final thought: embrace the beauty of connection. In the aftermath of a breakup, remember that forging new connections is not about replacing the old ones. It's about rebuilding a community of support, empathy, and shared values. By embracing the Stoic ideals of virtue, justice, and resilience, you can forge relationships that are grounded in authenticity and mutual respect. As you open yourself to new connections, remember that true connection is about quality, not quantity. It's not about having many friends or acquaintances, but about surrounding yourself with people who enrich your life and help you grow into the best version of yourself. Through these meaningful relationships, you will find healing, growth, and the strength to move forward. Chapter 10: Self-Compassion and Acceptance. The Stoic practice of self-compassion. He who is brave is free. Seneca. One of the most challenging aspects of healing from a breakup is learning how to forgive yourself and practice self-compassion. After a relationship ends, many people find themselves blaming themselves, feeling ashamed, or wondering if they could have done something differently to prevent the breakup. This self-critical attitude can be a barrier to moving forward and finding peace. However, Stoicism offers a powerful tool in the form of self-compassion. The Stoics believed that self-compassion is not about excusing or justifying our mistakes, but rather about acknowledging our flaws and treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding we would offer to a dear friend. Self-compassion allows us to accept our imperfections, learn from our past mistakes, and focus on becoming a better version of ourselves. In Stoic philosophy, self-compassion is deeply connected to the idea of acceptance, accepting things as they are, including our own shortcomings. Epictetus taught that we cannot choose our circumstances, but we can choose how we respond to them. This is a reminder that while we may not be able to control the breakup or its aftermath, we have control over how we treat ourselves in the process. The power of acceptance, embracing life's challenges. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation or passivity. Rather, it is a conscious decision to embrace what is beyond our control. Breakups often bring up feelings of regret, guilt, and sadness, but the Stoics urge us to accept these feelings without judgment, knowing that they are part of the human experience. In Marcus Aurelius' Meditations he wrote, "Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs?" This teaches us that everything we go through, even pain and hardship, can be a valuable lesson if we choose to see it that way. Acceptance allows us to stop fighting against our emotions and instead approach them with patience and understanding. For example, if you feel angry or hurt after a breakup, instead of condemning yourself for feeling that way, practice accepting those feelings as natural and temporary. By doing so, you can begin to let go of the burden of self-blame and start focusing on your healing. Sarah's story, the journey to self-compassion. Sarah's story is one of profound transformation through the practice of self-compassion. After her breakup with Chris, she found herself consumed by guilt and self-doubt. She kept replaying the mistakes she had made in the relationship, thinking, if only I had done things differently, maybe things would have worked out. The guilt was paralyzing, and Sarah was stuck in a loop of self-criticism. One evening, feeling particularly low, Sarah came across a Stoic quote by Epictetus that resonated with her deeply. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This shifted something within her. She realized that her emotional pain was inevitable, but her response to it was within her control. Over the next few weeks, Sarah began practicing self-compassion in small ways. When negative thoughts crept in, she countered them with kind affirmations. I did the best I could with the knowledge and resources I had at the time. I am worthy of love and healing. She also learned to accept the emotions that came with the breakup instead of suppressing them. When she felt sadness, she allowed herself to cry, and when she felt anger, she gave herself space to process it without judgment. Through this process of acceptance and self-compassion, Sarah began to heal. She found that the more she was kind to herself, the more she was able to let go of past mistakes and embrace the future. By learning to forgive herself and accept her imperfections, Sarah was able to grow from the experience and move forward with a renewed sense of purpose and self-love. Sophia's journey to self-acceptance. Sophia had been in a long-term relationship with a man named James. They had been inseparable for years, but as time passed, their relationship became more and more strained. Eventually, the relationship ended, not because they didn't care about each other, but because they had grown apart. The breakup left Sophia devastated. She blamed herself for not seeing the signs earlier, for not trying harder, and for not making the relationship work. She often replayed the events leading up to the breakup, convincing herself that if she had only acted differently, things would have turned out differently. The guilt and regret consumed her. One evening, after another night of self-criticism, Sophia turned to a book on Stoicism that had been recommended to her by a friend. She read through the teachings of Epictetus, who said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Sophia paused, absorbing the words. She realized that by continuing to blame herself, she was only keeping herself trapped in the past. The Stoics taught her that the only thing she had control over was her response, and she could choose to respond with self-compassion rather than shame. The next day, she wrote herself a letter, acknowledging the pain she felt but also reminding herself that she was not defined by this experience. She forgave herself for the mistakes she believed she had made. She began to practice mindfulness and meditation, embracing her imperfections and accepting that healing would take time. Over the course of several months, Sophia began to forgive herself. She no longer saw the breakup as a failure, but as an opportunity to grow and learn. Her journey wasn't easy, but it was transformative. Self-compassion became her source of strength, and she began to see herself not as broken but as whole and capable of moving forward. The Stoic practice of self-compassion. Self-compassion, in the Stoic sense, involves understanding that we are all imperfect, and we will inevitably make mistakes. The Stoics didn't expect perfection from themselves or others. Instead, they focused on virtue, growth, and acceptance. By accepting our imperfections, we free ourselves from the burden of unrealistic expectations and self-criticism. The Stoics also emphasized the importance of self-reflection. According to Seneca, a man who has committed a mistake and doesn't correct it is committing another mistake. This means that while it's important to recognize our errors, it's equally important to learn from them and move forward. Self-compassion is about accepting that you will make mistakes but recognizing that those mistakes don't define you. What defines you is how you choose to respond. To cultivate self-compassion, the Stoics recommended the practice of mindfulness, being present with your emotions and not allowing them to control you. When feelings of guilt or shame arise, practice acknowledging them without judgment. Recognize that these feelings are temporary, and they do not define your worth. Steps to cultivate self-compassion. Acknowledge your emotions. The first step to practicing self-compassion is to allow yourself to feel. Often, after a breakup, we try to push away the pain, hoping it will go away on its own. However, Stoicism teaches us to accept our emotions without judgment. Acknowledge that you are hurting, but also recognize that this pain is temporary, and you have the ability to heal. Shift your perspective. Instead of viewing the breakup as a failure, choose to see it as an opportunity for growth. Recognize that you've learned valuable lessons about yourself, relationships, and what you want in the future. The Stoics believe that everything happens for a reason and that the obstacles we face are the very things that help us grow. Practice mindfulness and meditation. Stoics practiced mindfulness as a way to cultivate inner peace and self-awareness. Take time each day to meditate or reflect on your thoughts. When negative or self-critical thoughts arise, acknowledge them without judgment and gently guide your focus back to the present moment. This practice will help you develop a sense of self-acceptance. Forgive yourself. Self-forgiveness is one of the most powerful tools for healing. In Stoicism, forgiveness is not about excusing your actions, but about accepting your imperfections. Remind yourself that you are human, and mistakes are part of the process. Let go of guilt and move forward with a renewed sense of clarity and self-love. Reaffirm your worth. The Stoics believed that our worth is not defined by external circumstances, but by our ability to live virtuously. Take time to remind yourself that you are valuable and deserving of love, respect, and happiness, just as you are. The Stoic wisdom on moving forward. The journey of healing after a breakup is not linear. There will be good days and bad days. However, by embracing the Stoic ideals of self-compassion and acceptance, you can navigate this journey with grace and resilience. The Stoics believe that we must learn to accept what is beyond our control and focus on what we can change: our reactions, our attitudes, and our mindset. As Epictetus wisely said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Your breakup does not define your future, but your response to it will shape the person you become. Choose to respond with self-compassion and acceptance, and you will find the strength to rebuild your life, one step at a time. A final thought: moving forward with Stoic wisdom. In the aftermath of a breakup, it's easy to feel lost, unsure of who you are, and what lies ahead. But as we have learned throughout this journey, the Stoic virtues of resilience, acceptance, self-compassion, and the pursuit of wisdom can provide a guiding light in these difficult times. The Stoics believed that every challenge, including the pain of a breakup, is an opportunity for personal growth. By practicing self-compassion and acceptance, you can heal from the past, embrace the present, and step into the future with renewed strength and confidence. You are not defined by your past relationship. You are defined by how you choose to respond to life's challenges. As Epictetus wisely said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This is your chance to react with grace, wisdom, and a renewed sense of purpose. The journey ahead may not always be easy, but with Stoic principles guiding your path, you can be sure that you are becoming the best version of yourself. Conclusion: a new beginning. In this final chapter, we've explored the Stoic practice of self-compassion and acceptance, the key to freeing yourself from the past and moving forward into a brighter, more fulfilling future. The end of a relationship is not the end of your story. It is simply a new beginning, filled with opportunities for growth, healing, and self-discovery. Remember, you are not defined by your past. You have the power to choose how you respond to the challenges life throws your way. Through the Stoic practice of self-compassion, you can embrace your imperfections, learn from your experiences, and move forward with strength, resilience, and peace. If you're ready to take the next step in your healing journey, we invite you to continue exploring more Stoic teachings, books, and resources that help you live a virtuous and meaningful life. Backhand index pointing right. Don't forget to subscribe to Vision in Motion for more insightful books, advice, and support on overcoming life's challenges. Your journey to healing and self-discovery is just beginning. Stay tuned for more.